beautiful Chicago. All right. Chicago. Chicago. All right. We're gonna take a little trip in the river and get to see the skyline. All right. I'm very excited.
Oh yeah.
Woo-hoo.
So let's go.
Let's just go as first. What is this area called?
This right here, I believe, is the Logan Square.
Logan Square?
Yeah, one of the Logan Square.
Oh, wow.
Slaughterhouse for the animals. They would bring the beef, the pork, and they would take all the heads, the parts they don't want, they throw in the river.
Yeah.
The river got so polluted. All the garbage there.
Yeah.
They just flattened it out and they made land.
Oh wow.
It's crazy, huh?
Look at me, mommy. Welcome to Chicago's. Excited? Wendela boat rides. Wendel's boat rides. Oh wow. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. Trump Tower.
An accident building. It is in the French Beaux-Arts style of architecture, incorporating Greek and Roman themes. You'll notice decorative Corinthian columns at the entrance, stackable floors, and another set of decorative Corinthian columns on top. If any of you are looking to grab a drink after the tour, there is a rooftop bar up there. You get great views of the river. But folks, what's historic about that site is what used to be there. What used to be there was Fort Dare. Go west to the south branch of the river and then come back and go back east to the turning basin where the lake and river meet up. Now the next building I want to highlight is coming up here on our right. This is Trump International Hotel and Tower. It is the second tallest building here in the city, built in 2009 by the architectural firm of Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, the principal architect, Adrian Smith. Now the building rises 1,389 feet, 92 floors, with a decorative spire on top. Now that spire counts towards the feet in the building. There are 470 luxury condominiums, a 5-star hotel, and on the 16th floor, a bar and restaurant. Now folks, if you look up at the architect, by the way, he is responsible for the tallest building in the world. Does anyone know where that is? Dubai, the Burj Khalifa. Matter of fact, coming up here on our right, it doesn't look like much, but it's a very important building here in the city. This is the American Medical Association, formerly the IBM headquarters, built in 1971 by the great German architect Mies van der Rohe. Now, Mies van der Rohe's philosophy was less is more. If you look up, there's no fancy ornamentation on the building. All you see are those black vertical steel I-beams and glass, all about right angles. But, you know, he was from the Bauhaus School of Architecture in Germany. He came here to Chicago during World War II and taught on the south side at the Armour Institute his international style of architecture. You know, many of his students embraced his design. You'll see other buildings that look like that on the river today. However, he had one student that didn't listen to a word he taught. Not one word. You know how I know that? Look at these two buildings coming up here on our right. This is Marina City, completed in 1967 by the architect Bertrand Goldberg. Now, Goldberg was a student of Mies van der Rohe. His philosophy was there are no right angles in nature. Why should there be right angles in architecture? You know, I believe everyone living in his building should have the amenities of living in the city. A marina, a restaurant, a bowling alley, a dry cleaning service. And if you look up behind us to the right, a theater. That theater today is our House of Blues here in Chicago. Now look back at those iconic buildings. Midwesterners refer to them as the Corncob Towers. Probably the most photographed buildings here in the city, actually. Now, you know, if you were living here in Chicago in the early 1900s, about 100 years ago, the only types of buildings you'd see on either side of the river is this red brick warehouse building on our right. This is the Reed Murdoch Center. It was built in 1914 by the architect George Nimmons as a grocery warehouse. It was also home to the Encyclopedia Britannica. Do me a favor, look at the clock tower in the center. Count, there are 6 bays of windows to the right of the clock tower. However, there are only 5 bays of windows to the left. They actually had to cut this building in 1939 when they widened out the LaSalle Street Bridge. So that building is not even. It might drive you crazy looking at it. Look at this building on our right. This is 300 North LaSalle, built in 2009 by the architects Picard and Chilton. It received the highest award an energy efficient building can receive, LEED Certified Platinum. That means leadership in energy and environmental design. 80% of the building is made of recyclable material. It has a green roof. Merchandise Mart, built in 1930 by Graham Anderson Probst and White. Classic Art Deco design, limestone with vertical setbacks. Now, you know, the building was originally built to house the Marshall Field Warehouse. It's 4.25 million square feet, takes up 5 acres of land, has 500 showrooms and 8 miles of corridors. Do you know that up until 1992, this building had its own zip code? Joseph P. Kennedy, the patriarch of the Kennedy family, bought the building during the Great Depression on back taxes for $13 million. Kennedy family turned around the late 1990s, sold the building for a whopping $500 million. I'd say they made a good investment. As Wolf Point, this is where the city got its start. So when Chicago was incorporated as a city in 1837, our earliest settlers settled on a very muddy plot of land here. You would have found taverns, cabins, and stores located there. And it's where they encountered the Native Americans, who referred to the land around them as Chicagowa, which actually has 2 translations. The first, big and strong, the North Branch and the South Branch. But take a moment and get a picture of that iconic view looking east down the main branch. right, folks, as we're heading on to the south branch of the Chicago River, something you need to know about these buildings here on our right, there's not a lot of land for them to be built on. Just west of them are active railroad lines for the Metro and Amtrak trains going into Union Station. So take a look at this building coming up on our right, just past the bridge. This is 150 North Riverside, built in 2017 by Gesh Partners. The base of the building is only 40 feet wide. That supports the building at the base. However, look up. How do you prevent the building from being knocked back and forth in the wind? Well, on top they have what's called a mass damper system. There are 6 silos full of water that are on rollers with that truss system I'm talking about. Well, look at this beautiful Art Deco building here on our right. This is 2 North Riverside. It was built in 1929 by Halliburton Root. It was actually the home of the Chicago Daily newspaper, one of the first newspapers here in the city. It was also the first office building built over active railroad lines, and it was the first office building with an outdoor plaza. Now, folks, if you come back next summer, we do have water taxis. They're the quickest way around the city. If you look off in the distance on the right, you'll see an older building. That's Union Station train station. If any of you get a chance, you gotta check out the lobby of that train station. It's absolutely stunning. If any of you remember the film, The Untouchables with Kevin Costner and Robert De Niro, at the tallest building here in the city, Willis Tower. It's spelled S-E-A-R-S Tower. For those of you from Chicago, you know what I'm talking about. Now, construction began on the building in 1968. It was completed in 1974 by the architectural firm Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. The chief architect, Bruce Graham, the chief engineer, Dr. Fosler Khan. Now, the building rises 1,454 feet, 110 floors, swaying 18 inches in every direction at the top. Now, it's what we call bundled tubular construction. The building consists of 9 separate 74-foot towers bundled together for wind resistance. Only 2 of the towers go all the way up to the 110th floor. Now, on the 103rd floor is the Skydeck, the observatory. If you look at 3 in North America, number 1's in New York City, that's One World Trade Center. That building rises 1,776 feet, our Independence. However, that building has a decorative spire on top. That counts towards the feet in the building. Antennas do not count in feet. I don't know what you think about that. I have my own opinion. I'll keep it to myself. By the way, Willis Insurance Company, they bought the naming right, the concrete cage over it. That's actually granite around the office windows. It acts as cooling and shade for those offices for the summertime. A way of being energy efficient, saving on air conditioning. There's also a nice little clock exchange where they were afraid that the weight on the floor would cause the 2 towers to fall in on one another. So that's why they bowed them out. Now, folks, take a look at this bridge house here on the right. Look how the architect built the building around the bridge house without disturbing it. Now, if we have any opera fans on board, the place to go here in the city is coming up just past the bridge on our right. This is our Civic Opera building. It's where our Lyric Opera of Chicago performs. Built in 1929 by Graham Anderson Probst and White. Classic French Renaissance style of architecture on the outside of the building. However, on the interior lobby of the building is a stunning Art Deco lobby. Just beyond this flat wall, there are employees to Michigan City for a picnic. Well, the boat was actually docked right here, and it was raining on that day. So people went down below to get out of the rain. They went to one side to wave goodbye to people on the shoreline. The boat was top heavy and capsized, killing 860 people, mostly women and children. They actually had to use the Reed Murdoch Center as a temporary morgue. You know, the river's only 22 feet deep. They were trapped and could not get out. Terrible tragedy. Well, folks, this building here on our right, this is 77 West Wacker Drive, built in 1988 by the Spanish architect Ricardo Bofill. Now, it's what we call postmodern architecture. If you look up on top, you'll notice a Greek pediment structure and then Roman arches over the doorway. So what the architect is doing is blending modern elements of architecture with the more classical elements. 55 West Wacker, that's a great example of brutalist architecture. Matter of fact, if you look down from above on that building, it looks like a giant hashtag. How many of you guys remember Tony the Tiger, Pillsbury Oak? This building here on our right is the Leo Burnett building, built in 1989 by Roche Dinkeloo. You'll notice there's a column within a column within a column going up the sides of the building. Now, if you look in the windows, you see those metal stainless steel objects? They actually serve a purpose. They're called mullions. What they do is attract light into the offices. It's a way of being energy efficient, saving on electricity. You might remember a few years ago the famous tightrope walker Nick Wallenda. He tightrope walked from the top of Marina City to the top of that building. People often ask me, Thomas, what is your favorite building here in the city? I have a lot, but my absolute favorite is this Art Deco building here on our right. Green brick with gold leaf on top. That's the Carbide and Carbon building, the Pedri Hotel. It was built during Prohibition by the Burnham brothers, Daniel Burnham's sons. Now, some people say the building resembles a giant champagne bottle. The green brick is the glass on the champagne bottle. The gold leaf is the wrapping on top of the champagne bottle. I guess that's what the Burnham brothers thought of Prohibition. We're coming up to the DuSable Bridge. Folks, this was the first bridge of its kind. It was built in 1920. It weighs over 19,000 tons. It carries traffic on both levels. Now, it's named after Jean-Baptiste Point DuSable, who is considered Chicago's first non-Native American resident and citizen. DuSable came from Haiti. Now, look at this building here on our left in the neo-Gothic style of architecture. If any of you have been to Paris and you've seen Notre Dame Cathedral, the former Chicago Tribune newspaper's office building, built in 1925 by Hood and Howells, recently converted into luxury condominiums. One selling for $7 million. Now, folks, if you look here on our right, you'll see a white vertical stripe building. That's the Aon Center, formerly the Standard Oil building, built in 1971 by the architect Edward Durrell Stone. That's the fourth tallest building here in the city. Now, it was originally clad in the finest white Italian. They thought it was going to fall on people walking below, so they actually replaced it with North Carolina granite at a cost of $80 million, costing more than the original building cost to build. It just goes to show you can't take marble for granted. Liz, by a female architect, any ideas? Wow, very good. You just pointed at it. This beautiful building coming up here on our right. These are the Residence at St. Regis by the architect Jeannie Gang of Studio Gang. It's 3 towers interlocking as they rise up. This one tower here, folks, topped off at 1,139 feet, 101 floors. This is now the 3rd tallest building here in the city. Now, they had a problem when they were designing this one tower. They realized the wind would just knock it back and forth. So if you look up on the 82nd and 83rd floor of the building, they actually had to take the penthouse out to allow for a blow-through so that wind could blow through the building. The tallest building in the world by a female architect, Jeannie Gang. We're proud to say she's a local Chicagoan. She's also the principal architect of the new global terminal being built out at Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. Now, at this time, I'd like to give a little bit of history of the Chicago River. You see, our river has a fascinating history. We're one of the very few rivers in the world that actually reversed the flow of the river. We did it for a very important reason. See, in the 1800s, Chicagoans used the river as their primary sewer. Doesn't that make you just want to drink our water? Well, at the time, the river was flowing east, carrying all that garbage and waste out in front of us and dumping it into Lake Michigan. Well, the problem with that is Lake Michigan's our #1 source of drinking water. So guess what was happening in the 1800s? Thousands and thousands of Chicagoans were dying of typhoid, cholera, and dysentery, waterborne diseases. We had a serious problem we had to correct. Well, in 1892, the federal government appropriated funds for us to begin the construction of a 26-mile canal on the south branch of the Chicago River, known as the Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. What they did is they dredged a 26-mile canal 15 feet deeper than the Chicago River. The project took 8 years to complete. There were also 3 states as well as Canada that were not happy with Chicago for reversing the flow of the river. Michigan, Indiana, Wisconsin, and Canada, see, they thought we were going to take all the water out of Lake Michigan for our river. That would never happen. That lake's over 10,000 years old. Anyways, they sued us. But we lost that lawsuit. And as a result, in 1938, we had to build what you see in front of us, the Chicago Harbor Lock. Now, what that lock does is it regulates the flow of water coming in from Lake Michigan. Every time the gates on the riverside open up, roughly 1 million gallons of water pours into the river. I'm going to take a pause so you guys can get some pictures here. And if any of you need to use the restroom, please do that now. We do need to clean them for our next tour.
Oh my God.
Now, you guys might remember in 2007, Chicago got word that we were going to get one of the tallest buildings in the world here. They didn't take into consideration gravity, that the water has to come down.
We
Mommy, are you
touch, we
tired?
break, make it seem like we feel the same. We love what we hate. We lie, but we know we can't water what doesn't grow. Give up, let it go. Well, we fell apart just in time. You say at least it was worth the try.
Welcome to the bean. Welcome to the bean, Mom.
At least it was worth the try.